You know that feeling on a crazy hot summer day? Hopping in your car, cranking the AC, and getting that blast of cold air? It's one of the best feelings in the world. But have you ever actually stopped to think about what's going on behind the scenes? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredible science that makes it all happen. We are diving deep into your car's air conditioning system. Yeah, it all starts with this one little button. You press it, you expect cold. Simple, right? But what's really happening is this fascinating, complex dance of physics and engineering all working together perfectly. It's an amazing journey from hot to cold that's taking place right under your hood and behind your dashboard. And its job is way bigger than just keeping you from sweating. The real purpose of your car's climate control is to create a totally safe and comfortable cabin environment. So yeah, it controls the temperature, but it also filters out all the nasty dust and pollen from the air. And maybe most importantly, it plays a huge safety role by defogging and defrosting your windshield so you can actually see. Okay, let's get into it. Here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to follow the secret journey of the refrigerant. That's kind of the lifeblood of the whole system. Then, we'll meet the key players, the hardware that does all the work. After that, we'll see how modern systems got a brain to get really smart about cooling, and we'll wrap it all up with some super useful tips to keep your system running smoothly. So the absolute star of this show, the main character, is a special fluid called refrigerant. Seriously, to get how your car makes cold air out of thin air, you have to follow this stuff on its wild, continuous journey. It's a non-stop cycle of transformation that's just brilliantly designed to move heat from inside your car to the outside world. And here's the secret sauce, the magic trick, if you will. The whole thing hinges on a really simple but brilliant principle of physics. When a liquid turns into a gas, think boiling water, it absorbs a ton of heat. And when that gas turns back into a liquid, it releases all that heat. Your AC system is basically a master at forcing this to happen in exactly the right places at exactly the right times. It all happens in this four-step dance. Step 1, compression. The refrigerant, as a low-pressure gas, gets squeezed super tight by a compressor. This makes it really hot and high pressure. Step 2, condensation. That hot gas flows to the front of your car, and as air blows past it, it releases all its heat and turns into a liquid. Step 3, expansion. Now this is cool. That high-pressure liquid gets forced through a teeny tiny valve. The pressure plummets, and it gets intensely cold. And finally, step 4, evaporation. This super cold liquid now flows into a little radiator behind your dashboard, absorbs all the heat from the cabin air, and boils back into a gas. Boom! That's the cold air you feel. And then the whole cycle starts right over again. Okay, so now that we get the process, let's meet the team, the core components that are working together non-stop to make this thermodynamic magic happen. First up is the compressor, and you gotta think of this as the heart of the AC system. It's powered by your engine through a belt, and its one job is to pump that refrigerant, the system's lifeblood, and squeeze it, putting it under high pressure to get the whole cycle started. No compressor, no cooling. It's that simple. Next, we've got the condenser. This thing looks a lot like your car's radiator, and it usually sits right in front of it. Its job is to be the first heat exchanger. Ever notice hot air blowing from the front of a car that's just sitting there with the AC running? That's the condenser. It's literally dumping all the heat that was inside your car out into the atmosphere as the refrigerant turns from a gas back to a liquid. All right, now let's go inside the car, deep inside your dashboard. That's where you'll find the evaporator. It's our second heat exchanger, but it does the total opposite of the condenser. This is where the magic you actually feel happens. The super chilled, low-pressure refrigerant flows in and starts to boil or evaporate. As it does this, it literally sucks the heat right out of the air that your blower motor is pushing through it. And that is the refreshing cold air that comes out of your vents. And what makes the evaporator's job possible? This little guy, the expansion valve. It's the gatekeeper standing between the high-pressure side and the low-pressure side of the system. By forcing that liquid refrigerant through a tiny, tiny opening, it causes that sudden, massive drop in pressure. And that pressure drop is what lets the refrigerant get incredibly cold just before it does its heat-absorbing work in the evaporator. It's a small part with a huge job. So there you have it, the compressor, condenser, expansion valve, and evaporator. They're all working in this perfect continuous loop. It's a beautifully simple and seriously effective system for basically being a heat pump, pumping heat from inside your car's cabin to the air outside. But that's just the muscle. Let's see how the brain makes it all work so effortlessly. The mechanical parts are absolutely brilliant, but in most modern cars, there's a brain running the whole show. This is where we level up from just basic air conditioning to automatic climate control. And the real jump forward is in the control. With a manual AC, you're the brain, right? You're constantly fiddling with the fan speed, adjusting the temperature knob. But with automatic climate control, you just set it and forget it. You tell it, I want it to be 72 degrees in here, and the car's computer, its electronic control unit, or ECU, takes over completely. So how does it know what to do? Well, it uses a network of sensors as its senses. It's got a sensor for the temperature inside the car, another for the temperature outside. And get this, it even has a solar sensor, usually a little dome on the dashboard that measures how intense the sunlight is. It also keeps an eye on the evaporator's temperature to make sure it doesn't get so cold it turns into a block of ice. So the ECU takes all this data, and it's constantly making tiny adjustments. The sun starts beating down on your windshield, the solar sensor tells the ECU, which then cranks up the cooling to compensate. The cabin is getting close to your target temperature, it'll slow the fan down and tell the compressor to take a little break. It is a truly smart system, and it's all designed to give you that perfect, consistent comfort without you ever having to think about it. All right, so now that you're an expert on how this whole amazing system works, let's talk about keeping it in tip-top shape. You know, a couple of simple checks can help you spot problems before they turn into a hot, sweaty mess. So if your AC just isn't blowing as cold as used to, chances are you're a little low on refrigerant, probably from a tiny leak somewhere. If the air coming out of the vents just feels weak, like it's barely blowing, the very first thing you should check is your cabin air filter. It's probably clogged with leaves and dust. And if the system just won't turn on at all, it's usually something electrical, like a simple fuse or a faulty switch. Honestly, a little bit of care goes a very, very long way. Swapping out your cabin air filter is something a lot of people can do right in their driveway. And having mechanics check your refrigerant levels every couple of years can prevent some really expensive damage down the road. It's that simple, preventative stuff that makes sure your AC works like a charm when you need it the most. When you step back and look at it, it really is a marvel. A car's air conditioner is just this perfect example of incredibly complex physics and brilliant engineering, all hiding behind one simple button. It takes the laws of thermodynamics and uses them to turn what would be a hot, stuffy metal box into your own personal oasis of comfort. So the next time you get in your car on a sweltering day and that first wave of cool air hits you, just take a second. Think about that incredible hidden journey, that constant cycle of compression, condensation, expansion, and evaporation, all working in perfect harmony, just to keep you cool. Thanks so much for joining me.